Welcome to Duke. My name is Amy Herring, and I'm Director of Undergraduate Studies in Statistical Science and the Sarah and Charles Ayers Distinguished Professor of Statistical Science, Global Health, and Biostatistics and Bioinformatics. I'm glad to meet you and encourage you to take full advantage of the variety of courses and experiences that await you during this first year. A recent Harvard Business Review article reported on interviews with executives and hiring managers at large corporations. They asked about learning outcomes they rate as most important, and these included oral communication, ethical judgment, critical thinking, working effectively in teams, written communication, and real-world application of skills and knowledge. These are the hallmarks of a great liberal arts education, and you've come to exactly the right place for that. Now, what is the liberal arts educational model? Well, the idea is to give you the critical thinking and analysis skills that you need to pursue any career path. You'll explore different perspectives, continue to develop your higher order reasoning and independent thinking skills, and learn to analyze a problem logically, rationally, and precisely. A well-rounded liberal arts graduate will master a wide range of skills that are transferable across current and yet to be imagined future roles in society. So in some sense, you'll be optimally positioned to adapt to our changing world. Now, I want to encourage you not to wait until your senior year to start knocking off codes and doing a lot of this exploration, because as part of this exploration, you could discover your true passion. Start your explorations early. I had a marvelous time in college, immersed in everything from the Great Migration to Shakespeare, Aristophanes to real analysis, horticulture to hypothesis testing. On the other hand, I learned that I really did not like abstract algebra. It certainly seemed to hate me. These experiences, however, help you decide which paths to take next. Without a little bushwhacking, you might miss a beautiful trail just off to the side. I'd like to encourage you to be fearless, but to be realistic. Are you curious about data science, but you don't feel like you're a math genius or a computer whiz? Sign up for one class with a great professor and give it a whirl. Now, don't expect serendipity. Plan to work hard. Ask the professor what to do to succeed. Seek out the teaching assistants. Use the satisfactory, unsatisfactory grading option if you'd like to remove the pressure. Have fun and enjoy the satisfaction of learning something new. Now, it's also very important to do something outside the box. I still challenge myself to do this. For example, take a different type of exercise class. Kickboxing? Anyone? Participate in a Chinese-style tea ceremony. Go to a performance of a type that you've never experienced. Check out the chef's kitchen, or explore what Duke Outdoor Adventures has to offer. At the same time, don't forget your favorite things, the things that feed your soul. For me, they're books, tea, and cats. And Duke has all three right on campus. It's also important to practice the job you want to have. Internships and apprenticeships are particularly valuable, with over 90% of executives and hiring managers saying they're more likely to hire a recent graduate who's held an internship or an apprenticeship with a company or organization. Similarly, employers at nonprofits say they're much more likely to hire a graduate who has community-based or service learning experience. On your side of the coin, as a student, that empowers you to choose new careers or roll them out based on these experiences that you have. Now, the great faculty and staff members here at Duke are available to help out whenever you need us, so don't be afraid to reach out. Not every student's born knowing exactly how a university works, and you're unlikely to be the first person to ask any question. For example, don't know how to address your instructor? Just ask. As an aside, professor or doctor are a good default, unless you're asked to use a given name or told to use some other type of address. You can't find chemistry? Not a surprise. The old chemistry building is Gross Hall, and Old Chem on campus is yet another building. Others have experienced your same frustration. Even I've walked into a random building and asked for directions. It'll be fine. We're here to help you find your path, whether that's immediate directions to your next class or a longer-term strategy for academic and career success. We're happy to have you ask for help. Which brings us to another question. What do faculty do all day long? Well, we do love to help you, But we're not just sitting around all day in an office, crafting the perfect lecture notes, grading papers, or waiting for somebody to come by and let us have a chat. We like to do those things, but we're here at Duke because we also have exciting, internationally recognized research programs and scholarly interest. We use math to restore art. We evaluate the fairness of our electoral processes, and we seek cures for diseases of the body and of society. We're happy to tell you more about our work and show you how to get involved, including through programs like Data Plus or Bass Connections. Now, how did I come to be here at Duke? Well, if you haven't figured it out already, I grew up in the Deep South, and I heard about Duke first as a member of the Methodist Church and through the Duke Talent Identification Program. Now, my parents weren't able to bring me to Duke to participate in the awards part of the Talent Identification Program. And to tell you the truth, I was slightly bummed. But it was too much money, too much time off work, and that didn't happen. But I was really excited to get in the mail this great book, On Language by William Safire. I was also happy to have a little praise. Now, you may notice that I introduced myself as a statistics professor, but I received, in the Talent Identification Program, a book about language. Now, Duke was not trying to make math whizzes better readers. I have absolutely no idea what the kids who scored at the top of the math test received, because I wasn't in that group. I was a reader. I was a lover of literature from the start, and all I ever imagined doing was majoring in English and getting a job that let me read, and read. When I enrolled as an undergraduate at a liberal arts university in my home state, I immediately decided on an English major, and I signed up for classes sort of using a high school model. In English literature, a math, calculus, a science, biology, a language. There I branched out and took classical Greek and a few more classes. I discovered new passions. My Greek instructor was amazing, and I loved Greek drama, both comedy and tragedy. Reading continued to feed my soul, and I eventually figured out that I was really quite good at math, and I couldn't imagine not taking more. By the beginning of my second year, I had added a second major in math, and I was pondering a third in classical Greek. So clearly I had a laser-sharp focus at this point. Eventually, I would graduate with a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and a Bachelor of Arts in English. One week during my junior year, I noticed a professor from a top university was coming to talk in the math department about biostatistics. I'm sorry to say that when I went to talk to a professor of mine about it, he felt that I should really be focused on pure math, and I shouldn't bother with a talk, so I skipped it. However, later I talked to a friend who attended, and the field stayed in my mind. After some digging around for more information and getting excited about the field, I eventually applied to graduate programs in biostatistics, thinking, if I don't get in, I'll stay put and get a master's degree in math. Fortunately, I got into my dream program, and eventually I co-authored a paper with that very professor whose talk I skipped when I was working on my doctorate. Now, the only other scientific talk I so clearly remember skipping was one in which my husband, my future husband at the time, gave as a job talk when I was in grad school. I'd never met him, but instead of going to his talk, I went out for a hot cocoa at Starbucks with my study partner. He was given a job offer, but he didn't take it, and so it was a few years down the road before we even met. Now, my research team at present is very interested in developing statistical methodology for borrowing information across groups, and also for studying transportability and reproducibility of methods for dimension reduction across different populations. One example of when we may wish to borrow information is when we're studying rare diseases. My son was born with an extremely rare birth defect, so rare that very little was known at the time about treatment or prognosis. We found only 8 cases reported in the literature. He ended up having surgery at 6 days old for a pulmonary artery transplant. I was a wreck, not only because I'd just given birth, because he was sick, but also because we couldn't get much good information to help us make decisions, and we had to trust blindly in what turned out to be, fortunately, a very talented medical team. With this motivation, I started thinking more and more about shrinkage estimation and other ways we might borrow information from studies of common birth defects to help us understand more about rare ones. Now, we want to be careful about how we borrow information. For example, using shared features that are predictive of health outcomes, rather than features that might be shared but might be unrelated to health. I applied for and received funding from the U.S. National Institutes of Health to pursue this research. Similar types of statistical methods are used in a wide range of settings, from estimating voting rates for small groups or in small areas, to determining whether a new unstudied chemical has potential toxic health effects, to determining whether a brand new product will have a successful commercial launch. I work with Duke researchers in medicine, global health, statistical science, and the Nicholas School of Environment on these and related challenges. Oh, and my son? Well, fortunately, we haven't been rushed to surgery with him again. We did rush to campus last spring to meet the bus when Duke's basketball team returned from beating Carolina in Chapel Hill. He had a much better view of the action than I did, given that he's just top 6 feet tall. He's a typical teenager, and I'd tell you more stories, but he's just going to edit them out of this video, and I ask him for help on that anyway. So to conclude, best wishes as you embark on this wonderful collegiate adventure. Enjoy all the challenges and chances before you. Follow your passions, but be sure to take some excursions outside your comfort zone. I hope to see you around. Hi, Oliver. Yeah. You say hi? Say welcome to Duke. Let's go, Duke.